I'm Kara Ray, founder of the Powerful and Uncensored Entrepreneurs. I'm a mother, stepmother to 3 beautiful children. I'm a wife and a proud entrepreneur. I'm a mindset coach specifically for the powerful and ambitious online female entrepreneurs who desire to create wealth and abundance in all areas of their life. The Powerful and Uncensored Mompreneur podcast is for the ambitious women and mothers who are ready to rise together and empower one another. Get plugged in each week for unfiltered and uncensored conversations between myself and industry leaders who are here to support you. They have unwavering points of views and empower women to believe in themselves. We will be discussing business, spirituality, sexuality, energy, strong points of views, manifestation, and what I like to call breaking the stigma topics, conversations that will no longer be silenced. This is a safe place to reclaim your power of being a woman. Let's dive in. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Powerful and Uncensored Mompreneur podcast. So today is a solo episode, and I just really wanted to dive into, the law of attraction and being an energetic match for what you ultimately desire in life. This has been something that has come up in my life multiple times now. And especially, honestly, within the new year, we all know, new year, new me, all these new goals that everybody puts in. And they say that there's like this momentum that you can follow through with, or you can dive off and then you just lose track of your goals. And I'm definitely the ambitious woman who just, refuses to die off on my goals. But of course, we reach this state of just unawareness and being unsure of what our next step is supposed to be. And so my first question for you guys is, do you know what the law of attraction is? Do you know that you have a masculine and a feminine energy? If you guys have been listening to the podcast, then you know that there's an episode with Olivia Celine where her and I really dive really deep into the masculine and feminine energy and how they play so well together. And I really highly recommend, if you have not listened to that episode, that you go back and listen to that, because I will be applying a few things that I've learned from just speaking with Olivia and taking programs with her, and also different things that I've implemented for myself. And so we can either live in like this masculine or this feminine energy. And they say that your feminine energy is like this ebb and flow, and your masculine is like this hustle, hustle, hustle mode. And I find myself a lot of the times stuck in this type A personality where I feel like I'm constantly in the hustle mode, where I can't seem to slow down. My mother calls it, she doesn't call it, she says it so perfectly, that I am ambitiously impatient in my journey, where some days I get so lost and I worry about, am I going to reach this next level? Am I going to reach this end visionary goal that I have? Because I ultimately desire to be a visionary. I love having these short-term goals because I know that it allows me to prioritize things. But as an entrepreneur, we have such a larger purpose that I don't want to get blindsided by these small goals. So sometimes, my masculine energy plays against this. And so I'm going to ask you, if you're listening to the podcast, do you think that there's one certain energy that you lean into more, whether that's your feminine, whether that's your masculine? Because honestly, you guys, before, I felt like I lived in my masculine all the freaking time. I didn't understand, honestly, when I first started learning about energetics and, the law of attraction and the universal laws, and how there's like this vibration that we give off and this energy, and what we put out, we attract. I remember thinking, what the fuck is this? I remember being like, what are people trying to teach me? What are people trying to shove down my throats? I just don't get it. And I pushed and pushed and pushed it away. Hello, masculine energy. And ever since I was young, I've always had like a spiritual side. And I'm going to be really real on this podcast, because this is why I created it. And I talked about this a little bit with Viola, and just experiences when I was younger. When I was little, I believed in a higher power, but I didn't necessarily know what that higher power was. And I didn't fit it into this box. I had gone to a Catholic school when I was younger, and they talked about God and how he was like a male figure and all these different things. And I just for some reason, to me, I just couldn't picture God as a male. Not that males are wrong, you guys, but I just couldn't picture God as a male or a female or as just one specific entity. And I struggled with that, but I knew I had a belief. I just didn't know what that was. So I attended church and I was talking to my parents about things, but granted, my parents weren't very religious at all. And so I grew up a little confused about what my, my religious beliefs were. And I started reading the Bible, and I had gone to some Bible studies, and then I wasn't sure, and I still wasn't sure. And then I started drawing my mother pictures. So I remember I used to always see colors around people. And I always thought this was normal. I didn't think that this was different, that this was a gift, that this was something that I had. And I didn't know that having this gift, I was going to open myself up to so much resentment, that I was going to open myself up to a lot of disbelief and a lot of negativity from other people who didn't have a belief system in that way. And that's okay. If you're listening to this podcast and you don't believe in spirituality or, the other side or all these different things or the universe and whatever, if you don't believe in that, I respect you 1,000% for that belief. But what I know to be true is when I was a child, I saw these things. And I remember I talked to my grandma about how I saw this man. I was working with my grandmother, and I told her, I had asked her this question about who is the man that is always in the building, because I don't know what his name is. And I try to say hi and he never says hi back. And my grandmother could never tell me while I was there, because I usually worked in this office by myself, that she didn't want to scare me. But that person wasn't there. But she had said that used to be like an old military base. And so there was a lot of things that I saw and a lot of vibrations, and I felt people's emotions immensely. And that's what I like to call being like an empath. And so when I say colors, this means auras, you guys. I used to see people's auras, people's energies. And so I drew my mother this picture when I was in I believe I was in either grade 1 or 2. And there was colors around everyone and our principal. And my mother looked at me and she said, "What is this?" And I said, "Well, it's their color." And she said, "What do you mean it's their color?" I looked at her like, "What do you mean it's their color? Don't you see colors? Like, they all have a color around them. I don't know what you're talking about, but this is normal." And as a child, I thought it was normal. And my parents never made me feel like it wasn't, until they started, buying me books and different information pieces. And their intention was so beautiful. Their intention was to allow me to expand this gift that I have. But what I took it as is I didn't know what it was quite yet. And I didn't know that this was different. And I wasn't sure if I was ready to be different, because I had been bullied so like horribly and when I was younger. And I just wasn't sure if I was ready to open to it. So I started suppressing it. And then, fast forward a few years, and my grandparents passed away. This might make me a little bit emotional, because this is a really real, raw episode for me. And I'm sitting here like, holy shit, I'm talking about this, but hey, it's meant to come out. This is what's happening. And I remember being so angry that they took them away within like a year of each other. And I was so hurt. And I remember saying to my mom, like, what kind of power does this? What kind of power takes things away? And I was so young that I'd never understood that death could be a very powerful thing. And it is not always to be feared. We fear death in so many ways. And when I was younger, I was so angry. And so I suppressed it even more. And then we fast forward. Sorry, I need to like catch my cool here. Whew. When you finally release things and talk about things, sometimes it just hits you like a ton of bricks. But throughout like my childhood, so because I suppressed all these emotions, this gift that I had I created it into something negative. So this is the power of like, the law of attraction and the energy that you put out and to what you can attract. And so I started attracting like nightmares and fear around what I was able to see, and and I started being very fearful of what it was, and I didn't want to open up to it. And every time I tried to, I felt scared and I felt worried, and so I closed off from it. And then as I got older, I just felt like this nudge that this was supposed to come back, but I just still had no idea what it was supposed to look like. And so I hope you guys are following this a little bit. And so, I had, fast forward now to my relationship with my husband. We are now married, and I, just before we got married, actually, it was the same month that we got married, I hired a business coach. And I knew that she had a spiritual side, but I also knew that there was things that I needed to figure out and that I needed to learn and lean into. And I remember opening up about my spirituality and just like really just constantly shoving it down with my masculine, and allowing my masculine to take over, and not allowing this like flow and this nurture to happen with everything. And she just encouraged me. There's actually, I live 45 minutes from my hometown, and my coach actually said to me, you should go to this store. You should go and you should just walk in and see how it makes you feel. And in regards to this store, so this store has like books, spiritual cards, it has crystals. It's a very like spiritual shop, to say the least. Sorry, I'm trying to pause this. My children decided to turn the television on right now while I'm having this conversation. This is life, guys, real life. Puppies, go to bed. Fed my dogs. This is why I love the podcast. You guys get to be a part of my family, my 3 dogs, my 3 kids, and my emotional self that I am today. But so going back to this store, she encouraged me to go. And so I decided to go. And I remember I walked in and I felt this immense amount of energy that almost made me pass out. And I remember talking to her about it after, and even because my kids had come to the store with me, and they had asked me, "Are you okay? Do you need to sit down? You don't look very good." And granted, like my stepchildren are 8 and 11, you guys. So for them to notice that something was going on, I knew that I wasn't, going all crazy here. But this was an opening for me. That was an opening for when I just trusted my intuition, and I followed what I felt guided towards, and I didn't have this end game in mind. And so as I started diving deeper into my spirituality and learning about, the laws of attraction and all the different universal laws, because there's 12 of them, and about this ebb and flow, I started diving deeper into personal development, into journaling, into being very honest and clear about who I am as a woman and who I desire to be. And I just knew that my spirituality needed to come back into play. And so as this journey was continuing, I ended up taking, like, we're going to go back here because I ended up taking a course with Olivia Celine called Spirituality in Business. And at that time, I just felt extremely called to be a part of this program. Extremely called to be a part of this program. And at the same time, I ended up taking a program called Femme Fatale with Melanie Ann Lair. And I also have interviewed Melanie Ann Lair. And this program, Femme Fatale, really rekindles your relationship with yourself as a woman. And I needed that. And so as I was starting to really dive back into my spirituality, and I was starting to be really honest and really open and very clear and tap into my feminine energy, my spirituality started coming out more and more. And I started seeing auras again. And I remember the first time I did, it took me by surprise. I started crying. And I didn't know what to do about it. And I remember talking to my husband about it, and my goodness, he's the most supportive and amazing man on this planet. And I'm so grateful for him. And I remember him just saying, like, embrace it. this is beautiful. This is meant to be. This is meant to come out. And I'm talking to you guys about this because this is also very vulnerable for me, but because I believe wholeheartedly in my spirituality and the gifts that I have, that I truly, truly implement them into my business. Because as an empath, as someone who feels emotions deeply, it can be really hard to balance them sometimes. I don't allow that what I say is hard to define me anymore. I choose how to perceive them. But one moment here. Libby, go to bed, please. Go to bed. You guys can probably hear my dog's little clickety clackety clickety clackety. They need their nails trimmed. Oh my goodness. They're pacing around the house because I'm around here, and they just want to be around, which is okay. But anyways, so the more that I dove into the spirituality, like I was saying, these things started coming back. It hit me like a ton of bricks in the most incredible way. And that's why I'm on here sharing it with you. This is where I was going with this, was because I want to be able to empower other women to be open about what their beliefs are, what their spirituality is. If you are able to see auras, or these things happen, or you're an empath and you feel emotions greatly, then honor the heck out of that and honor who you are, because there's nothing to ever be ashamed of the woman that you are, the gifts that you have, the purpose that you feel called to. Anything that you believe in your life is possible for you, or anything that has come up in your life is meant for you. And so I know before, when I continue to push this away, that this is actually meant for me. Wasn't something that I was supposed to continually push away. And so I just want to encourage you guys that if you're constantly feeling like you're pushing things away, or you're suppressing your emotions, you may be really living in that masculine energy. And I really encourage you to tap into this feminine flow. And I'm not saying that this happens overnight, because you guys, I'm talking about like a years and years and years experience of my life, from when I was a child to when I was an adult, where this was a learned process. This wasn't just something that I just flopped into and was like, hey, I got this. No need to worry, guys. This was something that I practiced, that I learned, and everything that I have gone through in my life was meant to be there for a reason. I was meant to go through these experiences as a child. I was meant to have this resentment and this fear and this worry, and I was meant to go through all those emotions, because I'm here to teach women that those things are there for a reason, and they happen, and we can either allow them to define who we are, and we can sit there and we can allow those fears and that comfort zone to just suppress all of our emotions, or we can walk through fear. We can say hell fucking no, and we can really stand tall in who we are, and we can shout it on the rooftops, because that's exactly what this podcast is for. This podcast is here to polarize. This podcast is not going to be for everybody. The things that we talk about in here are very open and very real and very raw, and I feel like they need to be talked about. There's conversations that I feel like need to be no longer silenced, and one thing is spirituality. I do not judge anyone for their spiritual views. I don't judge anyone if they don't have a spiritual view. That is their choice. And why I believe that is because we are all unique human beings, and we are all given a purpose, and we are all given these divine nudges and these divine tools in our life to utilize in our life. And so if you're ever curious about your masculine and feminine energies and how they can flow really well together, then I encourage you to really, do some more digging about that. Go back and listen to the episode with Olivia, Celine, and myself. And then also, if you're interested in any of those programs that I was talking about, go look up these women. They are incredible. They're magnificent. And I've been able to learn and apply so much of the tools and experience and just everything about myself I've been able to apply into my programs and with my one-on-one clients and everything that I'm creating. And so I encourage you to really tap into like this masculine and this feminine energy, because there's a need for both, this ebb and this flow. And talking about situations that are emotional for you, that potentially trigger you, that allow you to be open and real with who you are. I encourage you to have those discussions, even if it's just with yourself and with a journal. This is where I had to start, and this is what I had to start with. And on that note, you guys, I just wanted to be able to talk to you guys about spirituality and your masculine and feminine energies and how they play and how they can play this role of either suppressing or releasing. And like I said, emotions are meant to be felt. Stop suppressing them, stop pushing them away, embrace them, learn from them, and move along. And so on that note, guys, I will see you all in the next episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode here. And if you have any questions about anything that I talked about or you want me to dive deeper, please send me a message. And I will honestly, I would love to be able to dive into topics that you would like me to chat about. So make sure that you let me know. And I will see you guys on the next episode. Bye, guys.